Zenith hype has been absolutely unreal. It has probably been the most successful VR launch, with server issues aside, that I have seen since I started playing VR all those years back. As a die-hard MMO player though, after the hype has settled down and I've spent probably about 12 to 15 hours in the game, these are my 5 key takeaways that I think Zenith needs to implement as soon as possible in order for the long-term success of Zenith as an MMO. A lot of these features are most likely being worked on, or the developers have said that they are working on them. For you guys that don't know, my name is Josh. I am a VR content creator here on YouTube as well as TikTok. If you like this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and comment down below. I am working on a series of Zenith videos that will be coming in the near future. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get into my top 5 features that Zenith absolutely needs. At number 1 is going to be a basic player economy and the ability to trade. This is probably my biggest issue with Zenith right now, is that I do not have the ability to give a friend a piece of gear that dropped for me that doesn't necessarily fit my build but may fit his build better. Also, if I want to spend hours of time crafting high-level foods, since I have progressed relatively far into the crafting skill, I cannot give them food. There is a workaround for this. Actually, you can take the food out of your inventory, hold it in your hand, and then press it up against your buddy's face, and then he can then in turn ingest that food and get the stat benefits for it. But I'll be covering that more in a tips and tricks video that Zenith doesn't tell you at a later date. But yes, absolutely need the ability to play an auction house, to make money, to trade with your friends. Player economy is going to be desperately needed for the long-term success of Zenith. Number 2 is going to be a diversity of quests. So that first introductory zone or the tutorial, the quests are pretty straightforward, and there's nothing necessarily wrong with that. You have a lot of fetch quests, you have a lot of hunting monster quests, and you have some interesting flying mechanic challenges with flying through gold rings. That is all great. It is when you get to the second zone and the third zone, you quickly start realizing that the quests, all for the most part, are pretty similar. This is no stranger to MMOs, and I feel that all MMOs inevitably suffer from this, but the difference between playing an MMO on a mouse and keyboard and doing the same quests over and over again versus the difference of being in VR and immersed in that world is that the VR immersion side of it, those kind of quests can feel very stale after some time. So diversity of quests definitely going to be needed as they continue adding content. Number 3, going to be a relatively big one for me as well, is that I believe that Zenith desperately needs a guild bank system or a player bank system. So you have a inventory that obviously you want to keep relatively clean while you're out traveling, and as you're collecting things in the world, it would be very nice to be able to go back into the main city and store those things in a banking system or store those things in a guild banking system. So once again, going back to the first point, if you craft a bunch of food, you can put it in the guild bank, and then your guildmates can take that food out and use it at their leisure while they're leveling up in questing. Number 4, this is also a big one for me, is that the game desperately needs instanced dungeons and raids, preferably with difficulty ratings. So the reason that World of Warcraft is so successful, or was successful, was they had different levels of rating and different levels of dungeons, much like when they introduced, normal, heroic, and then mythic plus keys. So that gives players an incentive to constantly progress their gear, to constantly push themselves into harder and harder content. I think that's very important for a game like Zenith to keep people playing past just doing the story and leveling up to 40. It needs to go beyond 40. People say a lot with World of Warcraft that the game doesn't start until you hit max level, and I think that says opposite for Zenith. I think that there is a lot of enjoyment in leveling up your character in Zenith, but the end game is lacking, which is okay for now because most people are still in that leveling up phase. But I definitely think that dungeons with challenge difficulties is something that I would love to see in Zenith. Now on to the 3 honorable mentions that I didn't necessarily include in my top 5 because in other MMOs they have never really been that important to me. I know a lot of other people enjoy these mechanics. They're just not, they've never really done anything for me. So first honorable mention would be pets. I'm not necessarily saying to take the World of Warcraft route and do pet battles, but collecting pets is something that a lot of people love to do. Zenith doesn't really have a lot of like collection. There's no cosmetics other than the like founder cosmetics. So there's nothing to collect there. There's no form of transmogrification. So there's no reason to keep the gear, your old gear that you're collecting. There's no mounts, obviously, because of the flying mechanic, which is also fine. So there's no mounts to collect. So for those people that play MMOs that are looking for collecting things, Zenith is very lacking in that. So I think the introduction of pets would be really good overall for the game and give people just another reason to spend more time playing Zenith. An honorable mention will also be player housing. I know that player housing is popular in a lot of MMOs. It's something that I was never super fond of in games like Lord of the Rings and Final Fantasy. And obviously you would acquire a house, but I never spent too much time decorating it or anything like that. But I know a lot of people are really into that and inviting people over and seeing their house, and I think that that in turn too would also keep people playing the game because they want to collect and buy things for their house and things of that nature. The last honorable mention actually probably belongs in the top 5, so like top 6. It's just never been a thing that I've enjoyed doing in an MMO, but that would be instanced PvP as well as open world PvP. I know a lot of people play MMOs just for PvP. That's never been me. I've always been a PvE MMO player, but I think that the addition of PvP would be something that would work really, really well in Zenith, especially because of the actual getting involved in combat. It would be very satisfying to PvP in a game like Zenith. So guys, those are the 5 plus 3 honorable mentions that Zenith needs to implement or at least think about. If you liked this video, as I said, leave a comment down below if there is something that I missed in this video or something that you think should be included in Zenith. Also, let me know down below how you're actually liking the game. I will be coming out with more videos in the future on Zenith, so stick around for that. I'll see you guys all next time. Peace.